In some cases, the choice to keep from chatting to another actor on set when the cameras weren't rolling unquestionably led to cinematic gold, it must be said. But in others though, it likely just left the stars on the receiving end of the blanking feeling a little bit awkward and wondering what they'd done to piss off their fellow performer. Gareth here from Whatculture.com, and here are 10 actors who wouldn't talk to each other on set. Number 10, Joaquin Phoenix didn't like talking to De Niro all that much on set. Joker. Different actors have different processes. And in the case of eventual Oscar winner Joaquin Phoenix, the Joker star isn't exactly the biggest fan of reading through a script with the rest of his castmates in the lead up to shooting a picture, feeling that he works better when he's just performing in the moment opposite his fellow performers. Robert De Niro, however, is someone known for being fond of hearing the whole movie in a room with all involved before getting out onto set to film the project. Ultimately, Phoenix was convinced to mumble his way through the read, but after kissing and making up on the back of that early read-through drama, the pair proceeded to barely utter a word to one another throughout the rest of the shoot. Despite De Niro being the leading man's favourite American actor, outside of a good morning on their first day, Phoenix didn't like talking to his co-star and couldn't recall many conversations with Bob on set. Both men clearly felt there wasn't any need to do much chatting when the cameras stopped rolling, with De Niro also adding that they didn't need to talk about anything outside of the scene, and it made it simpler to just do the work and relate as the characters to each other. Number 9, Lady Gaga ignored Michele and Cottin in a very lovely way. House of Gucci. On top of staying in character as Patrizia Reggiani throughout the shooting of House of Gucci, donning her accent for a whopping 9 months, Lady Gaga also refused to talk to some of her co-stars whenever they were occupying a set together. With the actors playing enemies on screen during the events of the flick, Gaga was said to have told Paolo Franchi actor Michele and Cottin that they couldn't converse in between takes. Far from being offended by the leading lady's request though, Cottin would explain that Gaga approached her ignoring of the actor on set in a very lovely way, with Camille also noting how she has a lot of admiration and respect for the Oscar-winning artist. Unfortunately for Gaga though, all of the dedication in the world still couldn't secure her another Academy Awards nod for her highly committed work as the infamous Reggiani. Number 8, Robert De Niro thought it was better if he didn't talk to Mickey Rourke, Angel Heart. Many years before Robert De Niro and Joaquin Phoenix decided that it was probably wise to keep the chatting to a minimum on the set of Joker, the former broke the heart of another longtime supporter upon coming into contact with the acting icon for the first time when making 1987's Angel Heart. After sharing the screen together during the shooting of the picture for a while, De Niro reportedly approached co-star Mickey Rourke and told him that he thought it would be better if the pair didn't chat whilst filming because their characters wouldn't. A reasonable enough request, no? A longtime fan of the star's big screen work though, Rourke was understandably a bit upset by this demand on set, and even went as far as to note that it hurt his feelings a little due to him looking up to the legend. "I don't look up to him no more, I look through him," were Rourke's eventual damning words on his less than talkative colleague, with the eventual restless star claiming that De Niro's actions were nothing more than the result of Mickey taking him to school in front of the camera. Never meet your heroes and all that, eh? Number 7, Christian Bale and Johnny Depp didn't get to know each other on set. Public enemies. Christian Bale isn't exactly an actor who feels that being all pally-pally with a co-worker on set gives him the best chance at producing his finest work. Quite the opposite, in fact. And while shooting on 2009's Michael Mann-directed crime drama Public Enemies, despite only sharing a set with fellow star Johnny Depp briefly during the picture, Bale still wasn't in any rush to chat with the Pirates of the Caribbean thespian, claiming that the Melvin Purvis and John Dillinger actors didn't really get to know one another that well in between takes. Bale would confess that this was largely his call due to him enjoying the idea of not talking unless they're sharing a scene together. According to Bale, Depp was seemingly happy to commit to this strictly professional way of working too. Despite not really sitting down for a chinwag whilst filming the bank-robbing flick though, the Dark Knight star would go on to admit that he finds Depp's choices interesting, and thought his work as the notorious Dillinger was superb. This was not the last time a Bale co-star found themselves being blanked by the one-time bat, however. Number 6, Christian Bale found Chris Rock too funny. Amsterdam. Following on from his refusal to chat with Johnny Depp all those years ago, it turns out that Christian Bale also felt the need to keep his interactions with Amsterdam co-star Chris Rock to a minimum too. Instead of this being down to the fact that the two actors were playing rivals though, The key reason behind this particular piece of ignoring actually had something to do with Bale's admiration of the comedy megastar. As one of the stars of David O. Russell's latest picture would eventually admit, the fact Bale was a big fan of Rock and his stand-up, coupled with the star making him laugh so damn much during the early stages of their time working together on set, soon led to Bale having to take a step back from his newfound friendship with his colleague. Confessing that he felt himself slipping into becoming Christian when he should have been Bert, due to Rock being so bloody hilarious, the actor politely told Chris that he had to isolate himself from the funny man in order to keep up his performance as war veteran Dr. Bert Berenson. Number 5, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone purposefully ignored each other for a week. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Easily ranking as one of the most heartbreaking superhero movie moments ever to land on a cinema screen, the visual of Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker realizing he wasn't able to save his beloved Gwen Stacy, played by then-girlfriend Emma Stone, can still produce many a tear to this day. In order to capture the most emotionally impactful version of Stacy's tragic demise though, the Lovebirds felt that they needed to go a full week without uttering so much as a word to one another beforehand. Choosing to ignore your co-star on set is one thing, but blanking your partner for a whole week in the lead up to such a weighty scene, that is some commitment right there. And as visual effects supervisor on The Amazing Spider-Man 2 Jerome Chen would recall, when discussing the pair's choice to not talk heading into the moment, Garfield wanted to try and create a scenario where it very much felt like Stacy was dead to his Parker. Sure enough, when the actors did finally get on set to shoot the devastating sequence, the couple's commitment to ignoring one another paid off to the point where Andrew was crying uncontrollably for hours on end. Something more than a few fans found themselves doing after witnessing the traumatic moment in question too. Myself included. Number 4, Jesse Eisenberg went full Zuckerberg with Dakota Johnson, The Social Network. She may have only been on set for a relatively short amount of time in comparison to the likes of Andrew Garfield and Jesse Eisenberg during the creation of eventual hit drama The Social Network, but Dakota Johnson was still around long enough to get completely ignored by one of the film's leading lads. When talking to Garfield about her brief experience as part of the David Fincher picture, the eventual 50 Shades of Grey star would recall sitting down for lunch with the actors tasked with bringing Eduardo Saverin and Mark Zuckerberg to life in the film. And while Johnson would note how the English/American star was really nice, Eisenberg apparently didn't acknowledge her during their chat. Both Johnson and Garfield would ultimately defend the seemingly ignorant move, it must be said, with the actors admitting he may have just been keeping in character. Garfield in particular would note how there was maybe some of the Zuckerberg coming through in that moment. Or as the Spider-Man star would so charmingly agree with a teasing Johnson, there's a solid chance Jesse was simply overwhelmed by her beauty in the moment and couldn't find the words to express himself. We've all been there. Number 3, Lea Michele ignored Niro Rivera for a whole season, Glee. When tensions rise on a film set, the fact all involved can usually simply head their separate ways once the project has been wrapped tends to bring an end to the drama before things get really messy. But in the case of the growing animosity felt between Lea Michele and the late Niro Rivera on set, the two being involved in the 6-season Glee TV series meant that the co-stars routinely found themselves being forced to be in the same room over the years. And things got so heated between the Rachel Berry and Santana Lopez actors that Michele went as far as to ignore Rivera throughout the entirety of their time working together on the 6th season of the smash hit musical show. As Rivera would explain in her book, on top of the pair being very competitive with one another and everyone around them, it often felt as though Michele would blame her for anything and everything that went wrong during shooting. Despite said eventual entire season blanking though, Rivera would ultimately claim that while not exactly being the best of friends, a lot of the rumours centered around their on-set feud were blown out of proportion. Number 2, Benedict Cumberbatch didn't want to be mean to Kirsten Dunst, The Power of the Dog. In another case of two actors feeling they ran the risk of derailing their on-screen work if they were to get a little too familiar with each other, Benedict Cumberbatch and Kirsten Dunst quickly realised they needed to leave their conversations outside of the workplace whilst playing their roles in 2021's The Power of the Dog. After noting how he didn't want to be mean to Kirsten whilst remaining in character when the cameras were off, the Doctor Strange actor decided to not converse with Dunst whilst on set. And his fellow superhero star Dunst also felt the need to isolate herself from Benedict too. The two would at least sit down for a chat whenever the cast went out for a spot of dinner together, mind. But it was those moments of getting to know Cumberbatch away from the cruel figure of Phil Burbank that left the thespian playing Rose Gordon feeling particularly conflicted, with Dunst later stating how he's so sweet before quickly finding herself saying, "I can't talk to you." And the result of their calls to legitimately repel one another on set were a collection of Oscar-nominated performances that rank as one of both actors' greatest to date. Number 1, Ben Foster didn't acknowledge Will Smith for 6 months, Emancipation. Will Smith explained how Ben Foster's unexpected first interaction with the Oscar winner soon led to the duo not talking for the duration of the Emancipation shoot. Playing the role of slave hunter Fassel in what acted as Smith's first film since infamous Academy Awards Chris Rock's Slap, Foster proceeded to walk right by his co-star without saying so much as a word on their first day together on set. After initially assuming Foster simply hadn't clocked Smith on the day though, the actor playing runaway slave Peter soon realised that this was no accident. A whopping 6 months of zero eye contact or conversation with the actor outside of their time sharing the screen followed. Far from being offended by the blanking, Smith credited Foster for clicking me into the next gear of depth and focus. And after finally getting the last shot of the flick in the can all those months later, Foster would reportedly turn to his castmate, offer out his hand, and tell Smith nice to meet you before the focus stars shed a no doubt exhausted laugh.